All right, everyone. Harry Reid is trying to give some advice to his old political allies within the Democratic Party, saying, look, Trump isn't as weak as you think. You're underestimating him. If you think he's going to be easy, you're crazy and you'll lose 2020. The chances of them taking that advice seriously are slim. The AOC, far left of the party, has its head so far up its own ass, sniffing its own farts to get high, that it's impossible for them to actually think strategically. Those that are more strategic, like a Reid or a Pelosi, increasingly are being marginalized even though they run the apparatus of the party itself. So free advice to the Democrats: if you don't listen to Harry Reid, you're nuts. Because Trump has consistently outperformed every expectation, politically and strategically, that anyone ever had for him. People that didn't take him seriously got blindsided in 2016. People thought that that there was going to be a blue wave in the midterms. There was never a blue wave. They're now expecting, they look at the polls and they say, well, Trump has mediocre approval and every Democrat wins in a matchup against him. They're making the same exact mistakes they did in 2016. In fact, some of the same dumb claims are being made. Well, he loses in a matchup against Biden. Therefore, if Biden is nominated, he loses against Biden. That's not true. Not even remotely. It's the Kasich Effect all over again that I already explained. You can go back to the 2016 election coverage and find some nuggets of wisdom there, and you'll find that the same things largely apply. In fact, I could arguably copy some of my old videos from 2016, alter them slightly so that the date is different, put them back on YouTube, and they'd still be current. That's why the Democrats need to be very, very careful. I say this is someone, sometimes people will comment on videos like this and say, well, never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. I'm not a Republican. I'm also not a Trump superfan. If I vote for him, largely it'll be based on tax relief. I would like to keep that going. Decent diplomatic chops. He's the one that's now anti-war. It's very funny. The Republican executive branch is anti-war, and the Democratic-led House wants to stay in Syria. This is clown world. This is totally topsy-turvy. If you take the 2000s and invert them, that's what you get now. The president's still an imperialist. Other than that, there's really everything else has changed. The Republicans have become the populistic working-class anti-war movement that they should have always been. Maybe a Dwight Eisenhower sort of approach, and the Democrats have gone off the deep end and now think Bernie Sanders represents centrism. It's funny, by the way, have you noticed this? And this is another thing, Harry Reid never points this out, but this is another problem the Democrats have. Have you noticed how instead of calling out Bernie Sanders as being part of the left of the party, they've twisted themselves into a pretzel to explain how he's actually not? Oh, whoa, 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 he's not actually a socialist at all. He called himself one for 50 years. He's just a social democrat, and that's centrism. Social democracy is a form of centrism now. In other words, the far left of bleeding heart liberaldom that would have been considered extreme fringe in even the late 90s is now the center of the Democratic Party. I agree. That's not a good thing. The Democrats call it progress or progressivism. I call it insanity. I call it the death of a current political paradigm where the Democrats, over the course of the post-Reagan era, the Reagan paradigm is what we've been under, have slowly moved further and further to the left, dragging the Overton window of their own party well outside of that held by independent voters. They're going to get a rude awakening, I think, in 2020. The foreshock was 2016. I think that's what's going to happen. Right now, what are the Democrats' platforms? Orange man bad, climate change, kind of. They ramble about that but have no real solutions that don't involve taxation. And staying in Syria. That's basically it. That's not much of a platform. Oh yeah, free shit for everyone. The problem being people now in this particular era are more resistant to the free shit shysterism of the past, the snake oil salesman approach of the far left, specifically because they're able to be debunked in 10 seconds or less on Twitter. Makes it very difficult to sell socialism these days. There's a reason why it's declining in popularity among most groups of people. There's a reason why leftism is on its way out worldwide. And it really is. When you see them getting vicious like Antifa throwing bricks at people, it's partially out of desperation. That's what I see. I see a desperate far left that realizes that the gig is up and they're trying to cling to power. That's really what it's about. The AOCs, the mavericks of the Democratic Party, might bring it crashing down. Harry Reid's trying to warn these people. Harry Reid and sane normally don't go in the same sentence. You realize that. Pelosi, she looks sane sometimes now. Pelosi has been considered extreme far left, one of the most unlikable Democrats, a real lightning rod for criticism from GOP partisans for a very, very long time. She's been in politics for half of forever. She's fucking 1,000 years old. She is now sometimes considered the sane adult voice because you've got the Gang of Four in her party. Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, AOC, and then, again, the Presley chick. These four are socialists. They're extremely far left. Totally out there, and they don't care really about strategic things. They care about ideological things. The problem is a political party is not the same as a political ideology. The political party is split between different ideologies and different voting cores, blocks of voters. You have to think strategically. You have to think pragmatically. Well, the Democrats aren't doing that. The ones that are trying to are called sellouts, or they're called outdated, and they're constantly derided. Chuck Schumer, showing himself to be the Gore-era Democrat he is by being the voice preparing to keep us in Syria. I find that, I mean, the Democratic Party is basically destroying itself right now. They think that Trump is on his way out. Oh, we're going to impeach him, remove him from office. His approval will magically drop. Well, it hasn't dropped. I'm still waiting for the Ukraine scandal to drop his approval. The only one who got fucked by that was Joe Biden. And the Democrats, by default, take flack because of that. Hell, right now, if I were a Democrat, like if I were a partisan Democrat voter, like a working class, blue state, like I'm from Michigan and I'm in a union and stuff, I'd be saying, what's the point of voting at all? What's it? Certainly for the Democratic Party, there's no point to me supporting them because they obviously don't care about me. They're not even talking about taxes, the economy, domestic issues. The only time they bring up the economy is when the Dow Jones has an off day. Mostly they're talking about the Middle East. Certainly hasn't gotten old since 9/11, rambling about how we need to bomb more people out in a desert or steppe somewhere. And then pronouns, gender pronouns, and greenhouse gas. Even Chuck Schumer joining in on the fun when the Syria issue is like, I'm a little bit confused today. My brain almost isn't working the same right now. Not just because of poor sleep, I had a little bit of insomnia, but just because things are so fucking weird. All of a sudden, with Chuck Schumer's Syria announcement, I see that, I'm like, what world am I living in? What world are the Democrats living in where the United States needs to undertake such a venture? It doesn't make any fucking sense. Unless you're CEO at Raytheon, unless you're Halliburton, or a mercenary company or something. In other words, the people that give Chuck Schumer his cash. Goldman Sachs, really, really happy about it, I'm sure. If they weren't, then Chuck Schumer wouldn't have recommended it. That's about all. Peace out.